Last time on Desperate Attune, Saida woke up from her long coma and found herself amidst the steam and kebab smell of Aaron's clinic. Aaron filled her in the best he could, but, as he admitted, he didn't keep up with current affairs and his information was lacking. Furthermore, he misunderstood Saida's concern for her missing Sash and Samum and led them to believe that Samum had passed on. Unable to make sense of how a demon could die, Saida called on Shahryar and Khatam, their fishing buddy and formidable sorcerer, for answers. Upon arrival, he explained that a demon could die, in the sense that they had been changed so much their past selves had ceased to be. Fearing that they'd be in grave danger if Samum had taken on a new form, Saida and Shahryar made to leave the clinic. Just as they were heading out, they ran into Clem, Moss, Mushfik, and unconscious Gurban and the Professor, Clem's Deathlands monster bat. Shahryar was alarmed by the sight of the Professor. Recognizing Clem as its handler, he asked them if they'd been in Ibri recently. When Clem said they hadn't, Shahryar pondered out loud that he'd seen something similar wandering around Ibri recently, but did not explain further. Bringing the conversation back to the topic of Samum, Moss set the story straight. The Sash and Samum were alive and well, and the crew filled in the remaining gaps of Aaron's patchy recollection. Meanwhile, Bidrohi was being released from prison. After tearful goodbyes with his prison gang, Bidrohi joined the going-ons at the clinic, laden with gifts. Sharbot for Mushfik, flowers for Moss, spark rice boots for Clem, and pickled prawns for Saida. After presenting Saida with their gift, Bidrohi formally asked to be their student, and Saida, recognizing Bidrohi's prowess in avenging them, accepted. Shortly after, the Deathlands crew roused Gurban from his ghost coma. Gurban was forthcoming with his answers, but he only had bad news. He had indeed smuggled Ustad Shahid into the city, but he'd then delivered him to the Fire Speakers, the radical Uduasha ultranationalist faction. Thank you for listening to Desperate Attune. You can support us with a one-time donation at Ko-fi or for $1 a month at Patreon for access to bonus content such as XP, payoff, postgame banter, and a newsletter by Tree.
Uduasha City, where the sun is a mirror and the moon a shadow, where dancers cavort in forbidden operas, making love to forgetting and flame, where the wealthy play at war with silver swords and silken sashes, where the people mine the dead heart of a burning star for cannonballs and pipework, and where 1,000 secrets hide in a forest of paper and ink. Here, the 5 keybearers reside, the 5 who know the secrets of the broken gates of death. 5 only. There is no 6th spire, forlorn and forgotten in the desert. There is no one who looks to the displaced, the poor and destitute and landless, whose ancestry has been stripped from them by foreign looms and foreign sparkcraft, and no one has ever heard of the House of Ending. But this is their story. Their roots pulled up and burned, they stand in filth up to their necks. And that is precisely why they must keep their heads ever high. Welcome to Uduasha, immigrant. May it fear the name of the house you will build. Welcome to Desperate Attune, an actual play podcast about characters with their identities in peril, played by an international cast devoted to fiction-first gaming, collaborative world-building, and complex character drama.
Can I roll to because there was a brief pause, right? And I had to exit, and I'm back, but I do still want to find out what Bidrohi could most use tutelage in.
Yeah. We can cut back to you, and then we'll go back to Moss.
So what kind of thing do you want to find out about? Like fighting styles or like?
No, I think what I want to know is what is the thing that not necessarily because like. Apparently you killed my Laraclev, right? Like, so I don't necessarily think that fighting technique is what you may need, but I want to know what kind of like tempering, right? Like, is it that you need to be more cautious? Is it that you need to trust your instincts more? Like, what kind of like attitude is it best for me to try and like instill in you to make you the best you can be?
So how about you roll? Yeah.
So I think it's just a fortune roll.
I'm happy to help you. I'm happy to assist you.
Okay. Sure.
in which I'm being very open and I'm like, jabbering on and on about, life in the hand and also the things that happened.
Makes sense. So we'll take one bonus die. It's a 6.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you, and you may not like it, but it's up to you to decide if you want what you want to do about this.
Sure.
I think out of character, what Tree would understand, and again, I have no idea what side that would make of any of this, so I'm going to address it to you. You would understand what Bidrohi needs more than anything else is something to really, really believe in.
Right.
Because this Prince Khatam thing is...
It's too out there.
It's too out there and it might get us all killed. But this whole, marry a Katrisi girl thing, that's also that's not also proper. But so he's just kind of vibing and just having a good time and just trying to keep people safe, but he has nothing to really push himself forward with.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that maybe I think you're right that Saida won't enjoy it, but I think what is most apparent to them as you're talking is that somehow being in this you nevertheless you were in a very difficult place, but you're in a place where you still found some community, right? In a way that it's somewhat obvious to Saida that you feel obligated to the Rising Moon School and to your family, but you don't feel in the same way that sense of being bonded, right? And I think Saida is going to make that peace with the fact that being Saida's student won't necessarily mean following in the same path. It will mean finding your own path which works best for you. And I think that as you're speaking, I think Saida will just say, and when are you going to invite these friends of yours?
Bidray suddenly stops because he was in the middle of explaining what an octopus is to you.
Yes.
And then he just says, well, I just got out, but I don't know. I mean, the whole sentencing thing is really loose over there. It's actually the prison system is a lot worse than I thought it was, and I didn't think it was very good to begin with. So I think it means that if we just grease the right palms and so on, we can get them out fairly quickly. I think you'd really like them. I think they'd be a really good addition to the gang. Also, I don't know. I want to help my friends.
Indeed. Then let this be my first lesson to you as your ustad. Make that second reason your first, and your first reason the second.
I think Bidrohi thinks about this. So you want me to do things primarily out of love, if I understand you correctly.
I think that though it is not the path that I would choose for myself, it is the one that would suit you the best.
I think this actually makes Bidrohi stop in his tracks. And then he kind of turns around. And then he kind of looks at you and then says, "You surprised me, Ustad Saida. It's a pleasant surprise."
I think they look up and still breathing a little shallow. They will just say, "I am no longer merely your fellow swordsman. And I take my responsibility seriously. I understand that your previous teacher did not. If you feel at any time that I am failing you, Bidrohi, you must not tolerate it."
And he stands there for a while. And then he says, "It is a good day that we are having today, Ustad Saida. I am back and you are back. Mushrik Bhai has someone to beat up.
Yes, such days are to be treasured.
So I think there is an important conversation that you and I need to have very soon. But let us have it later.
Let us first find a gift for this man, as Mushfiq Bhai has insisted we must find. Bidrohi, you know that he is not always to be taken seriously.
Mm-hmm.
You know this.
Saidanti. Have we not realized where we're going? And then the path is just leading us to the guest house.
I see. Well, indeed.
Lovely. So, a thing we did not establish as we cut back to Moth is what became of your new friend Banu, who I think checked into the guest house. Simply, I think that's
yes,
logical.
that seems reasonable.
She's new in town. She's looking for the same people you're looking for, and her former host is indisposed, that having been Gurban. So, I think you can find her there easily to discuss with her the next step you're taking. I don't know if you want to pick up the scene there or if you want to pick it up somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
But she was looking for her people, the small Rocca community, which was split up between Bundervest and the Hand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I also want to flag before we just, it doesn't have to be now, but just before I think the session ends, we need to Bidrohi and Moss need to have a proper conversation as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
With the family.
Yeah, I think that's where I want this to head, but Moss kind of needs to deal with the tree first, I think. Mm-hmm.
Just flagging in advance. Please continue.
So Moss enters the guest house.
Yeah.
And I think this is briefly after the Gurban interrogation.
Mm-hmm.
And she comes to find Banu and asks. Actually, where do we find Banu? Do we find Banu like settling in a room somewhere, maybe?
I think he's not the sort of person to settle in, really, because she is, a wanderer and also like loyal to her home community. So I think she's one of those people who never really, she doesn't bother to make any place that isn't home a home because there's no point. That's always where she's going to return to. So she's this sort of person who has taken a room and taken off her boots and then not unpacked anything, right? Everything else is still in her bag. She's ready to walk out and leave this room behind in like a minute if it comes. But she is there. She is like probably just lying down on the bed, catching a quick nap, and then wakes with the vigilance of a desert walker as you like approach the door before you even knock.
Yeah. And then I do knock, of course.
Yeah. And she says, "Oh, come in. Did everything go well with the man?"
Creaks the door open. Sits on the opposite bed.
Mm-hmm.
It went all right. Mushfiq learned some things which he needed to learn. We had already learned what we needed to know. It's good to see you. And she wants to say, it's good to see you settled in, but then she looks around the room. Yeah. It's good to see you found a place.
That is what one does. I've missed the company of people who know the traveling ways, I must admit. Gurban and his people, they may be desert travelers, but they're not. There's a difference,
Their home is their home. And Moss smiles slightly.
Yeah.
And it is very big and unmoving.
Yes.
How, when we spoke in the desert, you said that you were looking for people who had to become lost. Did you mean that only in the sense that people did not know where they were anymore? Or... Was there a different meaning to that?
I mean it in the sense that some people thought they could make homes away from Ketris, away from Rocca. They thought they could bring home with them, like the trees.
Moss stares at her for a moment silently, kind of fiddling with the side of her nose, the flank of her nose. How much did I tell you? Remind me. I didn't think I told you that much about why I was looking for the same people you're looking for.
Not much, no.
No. There's I found one of the trees. The trees they hoped to bring here to raise here. Inside there's one ghost. The ghost of a young man, I think. Someone they had to bury. Someone who fell to one of the many dangers of this city. I've been wanting to find the family.
It's a
Sorry,
terrible
go ahead.
loneliness, I think.
Yes. The tree is unsurprisingly not doing well. Maybe it is loneliness more than anything that's warping it, so. I've never moved a tree before, but I have a mind to bring it back.
You would go with me. I think it falls to me to shepherd the people that were lost and help. And if I shepherd the people, maybe you will help shepherd the dead. If you've seen this ghost, if you've spoken with it, I think it may be best you ask it to come. One does not move a tree without consent, and I expect it will consent, but it's best it speaks to someone it knows.
Moss sighs, rubs her face. There's a lot here I'd be leaving behind.
Maybe, but there is a lot you left behind in Ketris too.
Perhaps some people just don't fit in this city, huh? Just like the tree.
I suppose everything has its place, everything lives and grows, but a fish does not live on land. It's just the way of the world.
Yeah. I'll have to think on it. I should speak to my brother, and my mother, and my sister, and the rest of the family.
Of course.
It's not a decision made alone. And we need to find the rest. Wunderwest, I think. If I understood what lyrics the ghost said correctly.
Yeah, there are leads, and I think I know how to find them. But you're right that this is not a decision made alone, and take the time you need.
Thank you. I hope the leads. Lead somewhere. It's good that you've found them already. Have some rest. She gets up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Banu lays back down with the like comfort of a person who has purpose. I think is the sense you get from her, right? There's There's no hesitation. She just like lies down, gets some rest, but it's not from being tired. It's from, yep, this is the sensible thing to do, to go on doing what I'm gonna do.
Yes.
And that's that.
Cool. Yeah, for me the next step is to go talk to the family and get Bedri and Mom and Ilsis and everyone.
I think it's the logical next scene.
And I think she'd ask Zaida and Mushfiq as well, and Clem as well.
Yeah, it's kind of anyone can be in the scene, but
Yes.
Bidruhi is required to be in the scene, kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Bidruhi and Moonlit and I'm terrible with names today. The sisters Usra? Yes.
Uzra.
Usra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think probably the logical time to do this is at meal times. So yeah, I think Moonlit has served up some food and is just trying to have like partly just have a nice meal with the family, but also have a talk with the family, because I mean she's not ignorant to everything that's been going on, and she's particularly not ignorant to Bidruhi having been in prison, so she is treating him extra well after he's out, with the kind of the kind of cold love of a lot of mothers, where she doesn't really know what to say to you, and she's still kind of mad at you for having gone to prison, but she's going to feed you, that kind of vibe.
One question.
Yes,
is there gulab jamun? Of course
there is gulab jamun. Yes.
Oh
What were you
my
saying,
God.
Tree?
I mean, feel free to cut this from the episode, but are you sure you weren't raised in South Asia?
Sometimes I wonder, because yes, I am very familiar with this dynamic myself.
I mean, I'm just saying. What? Yeah, very good. Okay. Great. Saida's gonna enjoy the gulab jamun much more than they did the terrible pickle.
What? Bitch, that sounds
Yeah.
also on the table.
Yeah, but I don't know who's eating it. I guess Saida is not.
I'm eating it.
Good. Proud
I'm
of you.
enjoying
Well
everything on this table.
Yes.
done. Yeah.
So yeah, Moonlit is kind of serving food in relative silence. She's not very talkative to begin with, and
I'm telling her all about
suppose-
Zut Mohitul and bath time.
Yeah, and in return, she is telling you that you probably shouldn't be associating with such people, and didn't you learn anything from being in prison? And
Yes,
yeah.
indeed.
Oh, I learned many things while I was there, but like Usra's here, mother.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. There is a sharp inhale, and she says, "Eat your gulab jamun."
How's Usra reacting to my return?
She is she's a bright child, right? So I think obviously she's happy that you're back. She's also very curious and also like scared of the whole situation. Like she can sense the tension, right? She's not stupid. She knows there's things here that she's not allowed to know about, and it unsettles her.
So ask her, Usra, have you been taking care of the tree while I was gone and Sister Moss was in the desert?
I have.
Reminder for everyone that we have a small bonsai.
Yeah. Yeah. All by myself too. Did you have to take care of a tree when you were? She doesn't dare say in prison, but she looks at you meaningfully.
You know what? There was a tree down there. There was a big tree, and then I kind of like spin a small little fairy tale about a tree.
Yeah. And she can tell you're bullshitting and loses interest in it. She like rolls her eyes. She's happy that you're back, but
oh yeah, yeah, okay. No, I was in the hand, and there was a fucked up. Maybe there was a tree with diamonds in it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then she looks over to Moss, I think, because this is the opportunity to get Moss in, right? And she says, "What about in the desert?"
In the desert, there wasn't a tree. But there was a star. There. a very small one.
Oh. Oh wow.
It's a secret star that the people we were going to talk to, they had hidden it. And they kept it a secret.
What
But
sort of
when
people?
they were... Do you remember the stories about the old country far away
Mm-hmm.
with the trees?
Yeah.
What's it called, Dusra?
She looks at you, tilting her head, and it actually probably takes her a moment to remember it, and then she hesitatingly says, "Ketris?
No, Khatam.
Katam. Katam, yes. That's our name. Right, that's why."
Yes. So from Katam and other places nearby, sometimes people still want to travel back and forth. But the deserts are very big and very dangerous. So it's very easy to get lost or to go into a place where you're not safe. But there are people who know the safe ways and who know how to get here, for instance, from Katan.
Like you. She
Yes,
smiles widely.
yes, like me.
Big Sister Moss is very cool. We're very lucky to have her with us.
There is a telling absence of expression on
Yeah.
Moss's
I'm just
face.
going to start doing emotional damage to you, by the way, Emma.
Yeah.
Thanks. Excellent.
And
Mhm.
I think awkward silence follows as everyone looks to Moss, and like, we're lucky to have you with us.
I think that Saida is going to take the opportunity while the awkward silence is continuing to try and get a moment with Clem, because it seems like this is a family moment, and I don't want to be involved, man. There's a reason that I'm an old auntie without any close family, and it's definitely not because they all loved me so much they stuck around forever. So yeah, I'm just gonna like raise an eyebrow at Clementine from a distance and be like, "You can't see it, but that's what I'm doing with my eyebrows."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see it.
And I'm just gonna walk out the door and hope that he will follow.
Excuse me. Where's your lavatory? Sorry, I think Clem looks a little bit disturbed.
Was it the octopus?
Yes.
Oh no.
They told me it was very good octopus, that it was caught just like last month.
It's very fresh. Yes. No.
Now I'm wondering if Bidruhi thinks that the tinned shrimp he got are in fact octopus.
No, I got something
Yes.
that I was
Yes, I
told
know.
was octopus.
Yes, I am aware.
It is certainly slimy.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
would anything compel Mushfik to leave a dinner table?
Well, yeah, take out.
Yeah, but I think Mushfik is still here. It makes sense.
Yeah. And Bidruhi has no idea that there's anything awkward going on. He's just enjoying his gulab jamuns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think before they leave, Clem just says, "It's good food, thank you, Miss Ankatam," but hasn't eaten anything since you name dropped Kethris and potentially going back.
Makes sense. So I think she writes this haven't eaten thing off as a curious behavior, although she is slightly insulted by it, of course. Well, more than slightly. She's very insulted. Who am I kidding? But,
It's okay. Mushrik Bhai can eat for all three of us.
Yes. And so, did you want to do a scene here, Tree? Sorry, I'm a little slow
Yeah,
to
yeah,
follow up on like the telegraphing. Okay.
No, it's totally
No.
fine.
Tree
I
and
wanted to
Clem
see
have a
what-
conversation outside. Saida
Yeah.
and Clem have a conversation outside. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah. So I am idly rolling a cigarette that I know I cannot smoke lest I literally throw up again and, die. But it's just something that I'm doing because I need something to do with my hands, honestly, because the awkwardness inside was thick enough to cut with a butter knife. And as Clem comes out, I will just say, has it been like that the whole time?
Like what?
You know, all of them on tenterhooks for each other.
Something like that. Yeah. Are you going to smoke that?
No, do you want it?
Yeah, I'll have it. You smoke a lot.
Yeah.
For an old lady. She kind of smiles.
Yeah.
Smoking
think-
preserves things for later.
Indeed. I think Saida looks so scandalized and says, Clementine, are you trying to flirt with me?
Would you like me to?
Is that what you think flirting's like?
I am so tired. No. If that's what you do, then I must tell you that I have no energy. This old woman cannot. The only relationship that I have currently is with the demon that hides in my sash. And it is one that I try not to think about.
Yes, I've been on tenterhooks this whole time.
That doesn't particularly surprise me.
But it makes you uncomfortable.
I've spent a long time avoiding exactly this kind of environment. And I let Moss live with me because I presumed that it was so awkward I would never have to witness what we just witnessed, but it seems that time makes fools of us all. I'm not sure what I'm going to do now that I will have to teach Vidrohi on an ongoing basis. I won't be allowed to simply storm off and call it a day because I'm sick of his nonsense or just don't want to look in Moss's eyes anymore. Ugh.
You should go back in. Saida. Be there for your apprentice. You've got somewhere to go back to after this, right? Go back in.
Yeah. When did I start taking advice from people 20 years younger than me?
20. 10. Come on. It's just a decade.
Sure.
What's a decade between people like us, huh? You've seen enough.
Like to have seen less. Fine.
Okay.
No.
Good note to return to the dinner table, I think.
Yes,
So-
correct.
Moss, how are you going to address this? Finally.
I'm going to do it at the point where Zaida is back.
Lovely. Very good.
I'm going to wait for them to settle in a bit. And Moss, while just staring at her plates and kind of fiddling with the cutlery a little bit. I've so far failed to apologize for not being there when you got poisoned, Zaida.
Yes. I'm not sure anyone could have really done anything about that. But Rohit, what happened to your your
He says through a mouthful of octopus.
Yeah. I'm just gonna be like, what wasn't this with your paramour?
Yeah. And then he kind of swallows. And
Moss, who almost never interrupts a conversation, goes on. I have not been here for a lot of things, really. I found myself retreating to that basement more and more, and trying to be here with the living, with my family, and thinking that there was some strange calling that the dead had to me, some strange, or that it was, since I had found the tree, my duty to deal with it, and that it was that duty that was clashing with my duty to you, my family, and she's kind of like, she looks really tired, just like rubbing her eyes.
Sister Moss, are you okay? Bidrohi says, and he's been like, I think he's realized that something's changing, and he's been wiping his hands clean.
Mm-hmm. Banu asked me to come back to Kethris today to take the tree, because it's obviously not growing well here, and replant it in the mangroves, and then to watch over it. And I seriously considered it.
Mm-hmm.
Banu is also a wanderer, also a whisper.
Well,
she was with the Roka that we encountered when we knocked out Gorban. She helped me do that whole affair with the ghost, in fact.
Yes. Yes, of course. How could I forget your new friend? I heard the stories, of course. Okay, I mean, I'm going to miss you very much, but I know how much the tree means to you, and also to to Ma over here, and so I think this is really cool. This is a really cool thing you're doing. But like,
Moonlit cuts in. She didn't say she was going to do it. She said she was considering it.
I mean, of course she should do it, but like when? I mean, when will you be back, sister?
You didn't hear her say that she would watch over it?
Yes,
Yeah, for like a month or a year or something, maybe. So, but you please, sister, I'm listening.
It's a part of why I'm considering is the tree's welfare, of course, and that it's important, and that it has to, well, it has to be in its place, a place that fits it, which this city clearly isn't. And the other part is that the same is true for me. I think that is also, I have now realized why I've been absent so much, why I've been in that basement so much.
Moonlit sighs, and there is a small smile, and she says, I've always known that. I tried to tell myself I could keep you with me, but, well, you're not Ramu's child. He thought he was Ketrisi. You actually are.
Wait. What is this? What is this conversation happening now? Sister, are you saying that you won't come back?
I suppose that with the roads that I know, and with the new cave that we discovered, and how that makes the journey relatively safe, if not in any way truly safe, I suppose that I'll come visit. But this is not my home, even though it contains all the people that I love.
But your family is here. Where else would home be?
I don't know. I've always believed that the place where your family is home, and that is the core of it. That's the adage that everyone clings to. But I found that it's not true for me. I suppose for me, home is the place where I grew up. And the place where every time I wake up, for a brief moment before I open my eyes, I assume myself to be.
Yeah, Moonlit slowly puts down a plate before you, Moss, and she says, "You will have to give us a little time, but I think I always knew this was coming."
I'm not gone yet.
I know. So eat. She lifts the
And-
plate up towards you.
Mm-hmm. And she also holds Moonit's hand for a second before taking the plate.
Mm-hmm.
Does this mean I'm getting my house back?
You could have kicked me out at any moment, Zaido.
Don't threaten me. I was tempted.
Well, now you won't have to anymore. You will be freed from all temptation.
There wasn't enough temptation in my life. I appreciated having a little bit more. How will you transport the tree?
I am not sure. But I will not be the only one traveling back.
Oh, by the gods, fuck your goddamn trees. You're giving up your family for a fucking tree, okay? You look at Uzra right now. You have not seen her. This is the first time you're seeing her. You didn't know she existed. You look at her right now and tell her that she's about to lose her big sister because of a goddamn fucking tree.
Vidrohi!
Moonlit slams her palm down on the table so hard that all the dishes rattle.
No, mother, you do not do that, okay? I know that you are a big fan of sending your family away. So you sent daughter away already one time. Second time, go. Very good practice. Very nice. Very cool. Fucking trees. Okay, I'll show you. And he gets up. He gets up from the table.
Yeah, she is very angry.
Yeah,
Mhm.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the living room, grab the little bonsai. I'm going to throw it into the fireplace.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
She's going to
I-
physically stop you from doing that. Just FYI,
Yeah.
you can make an action roll if you want, but
I'm also curious to know whether Moss is gonna act, because if Moss isn't, I will.
Yeah, Moss.
But I don't want to take it away from him.
Moss wants Betrohi to stop, but basically wants to stop him before Mom does. And we'll just she'll rush after him and just try to work him into holding his hand or something.
So I guess I'm just holding the pot now.
Yeah.
Hands shaking. How is this thing home?
It's not the trees, Bidre. It's... Maybe I am wrong. Maybe I will go there and I will find that sense of being drawn there, drawn back home, that the home that I thought existed didn't exist anymore. That it doesn't exist without you, that it doesn't exist without all of you. But if I stay here, I will never know that. And if I stay here, I will always be hiding.
I think also over your shoulder, I see Uzra, who's looking at me holding this plant.
And she is obviously shocked because she has been really been taught to tend to this plant. It's basically the one thing she's been doing that she cares about. Maybe sometimes a tree isn't just a tree.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and I think this may be one of the first times that even she's like in this kind of situation, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
I
no.
think,
She grew up with Ramu as a father.
Yeah,
yeah,
she did.
but I think with I think in this case, I do feel like it's different because with Ramu, he was not necessarily like kind to her all the time, right?
Mm.
But
Yeah.
it seems to me that Bidrohi and Moss have been aggressively like kind with her partially because of how Ramu is, but this is her watching her siblings fight without her being involved, right?
Yeah, more to the point, I think Usra looks at you and she does not say this, but the only person ever before to have threatened this tree, which is incredibly important to your mother, is Ramu. And I think the look in her eyes says, you have never been more like your father.
Mm-hmm.
Damn! That's 100d6 psychic damage!
Yeah. But I think it's true in this situation,
Yeah,
because he
of course.
had these
Yeah.
bursts of rage. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think he holds the plant and then he kind of like not pushes past, but kind of just moves past Moss and probably the multiple other people. And I think he's moving slowly enough, and if anyone tries to stop him, he's just going to kind of like raise his hand. And then he's just going to tremblingly just hand the pot to Uzra.
Mm-hmm.
And then without looking at Moss, he's just going to say, "But I didn't get the chance to know you."
Didn't you? I'm sorry. I'm sorry you feel that way. Because I feel like I know you, Bidui. I feel like we've been through quite a lot of things together.
Yeah, and he kind of gives a nod. And then, I think he's accepting it, but, he's just going to make arguments. He's going to say, me, mother, Usra, Saida auntie, Mushfik bhai, everyone's always telling us we don't belong here. But we're still here. We're still trying. Why can't you?
Because for me, it wasn't somebody else telling me that I don't belong here.
You know how much that hurts to hear.
I know. I think I know.
Then I know if you say it still, it's because you mean it. Okay. I'm sorry, Uzra. Then I think he gets up and goes to his room.
Yeah, and I think there is this quiet throughout the room, which I'm imagining in my head, and you can say if this isn't true, is only interrupted by the sound of Mushfik still.
Well, crisis averted, food still here.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes eating is also a trauma response.
No, I think I did mention that if Bidrohi was going to throw the plant into the fire, then Mushrik would have.
Yeah.
stopped
Yeah,
it.
I know. He probably would have gotten up. I'm just imagining him like being the first person returning to the food after it becomes clear the crisis is averted.
Mushrik's made he's made calculations, he's used visual calculus, he has between heartbeats. He knows that if I'm about to throw it, he has time enough to act.
Very good.
It didn't come to it, but what would have happened is probably like if you threw it into the fire, Mushrik would have thrown a bowl towards the plant that just deflected it.
Yes.
And then the plant just goes into the bowl and it kind of just spins around on the floor and just comes to a rest.
Yeah.
I
Just
think,
like that.
This is Sherikatam, after all. What do you expect?
Yeah.
I say you put some spin on the bowl, keeps the gyroscopic effect, keeps it stable in the air, catches the plant,
Yes.
and seeks it.
Yes.
Mhm.
Are you okay? Was that okay for you?
Sorry, what?
Are you alright?
Yes, I'm alright. That was very cool.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Saida will see this. Yeah. And just say, well, I think the question of the tree can come later, but we will miss you if you decide to stay. But I hope you will visit.
I will miss you far too much not to.
Yeah, I think like my instinct is the same, which is I would say, and Uzra has not seen a beach ever in her life. What a shame, no? Perhaps we can go together.
Yes. She looks at Uzra and says, tomorrow, I have to go there to the tree. And I have some shears and tools for gardening there. And some mulch that you use to feed trees. We use it to feed the little tree. And I have to bring it back here. I think some of it you can use with this one. You want to come and help me carry stuff?
Yes. Yes. I'll be there.
Good. The three of us then.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Mushfiq, pass me some of that octopus, will you? I need to think about something else.
Yes. I'm imagining, by the way, with how we've talked about this octopus, that it is served as alleged octopus, and everyone just assumes that alleged is a means of cooking.
Alleged. It's got many
Yes.
legs.
Alleged.
Yeah.
Alleged.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Do any of us read accuracy? I don't think so.
No.
It also came from a tin.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Mhm.
No, you're right. Sorry, I hadn't realized that they were potting it industrially. Fuck.
Mhm.
You said
Yeah.
that, but I didn't put the Acaros connection together.
Mhm.
Oh,
I mean,
sorry,
Clem,
Andy's gone.
Clem is the only one who can read accuracy for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Clearly, some of us like a little bit of an understanding of it, but it's only enough to read. Oh, I think that says octopus, and we don't know what alleged means.
Alleged.
Yes.
Alleged,
Yes.
yes.
Alleged, it's got many legs.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Don't get us started back on arms and legs again.
Uh-huh. Yes.
So, sorry, has the weird rag monster also been in this scene the entire time?
No,
Please say no.
I don't think it follows Clem everywhere, and I don't think it's been in the
Okay.
room. I have an
Well,
idea
that's
for what the raggedy arm monster has been doing.
Mhm.
Clem,
Oh,
One
we
could.
yes.
we haven't seen your home yet, but I think it's hanging out in your home, and I think it's doing calligraphy for some reason. I don't think, speaking of languages you can't read, that it's doing calligraphy in a language that any of you understand, but it's doing calligraphy.
Muy bien. It's been describing octopi. Octopodes.
Yes. Yes.
Mm.
Very good.
So I guess
Yeah.
if the octopus is alleged, then Clem's new pet is unarmed.
No. I could have got that one. Like I saw where you were going, and I was like, oh shit!
Anyway.
I could have got the.
I hate all of you.
Yes.
Good.
Not a single one of you do I consider a human being.
None of you are free from sin.
You shouldn't consider the many armed thing a human being, probably. So
yeah,
that's fine.
probably. Yeah.
So I think let us just continue this arc. I think it's a very emotional scene, but
yeah,
I think it makes sense to power through. And a logical next scene might be Moss like actually preparing to leave. If we want to play that out a little bit, just like Moss and the Rocca, because the rest of you haven't met the Rocca. So if it makes sense to everyone present, I think a logical way to frame this is that, Banu finds the remaining Rocca. It's not a super interesting plot to track them down. Like, she can do it now that you have the information you got from Gurban. The people in the Hand and the people in Bundervest. And then they will come and move the tree. And, of course, like, Moss will commune with the tree a little bit. And then, the interesting thing, I think, is how they will transport this, which I imagine to be, since this is an object of devotion, I think the way they transport the tree is like this community pools together with its very little money and actually like get it a carriage for it to travel in.
Yeah.
And, since it's an object of religious devotion, it's a decorated carriage too. It's like a beautiful thing. I'm thinking a little bit of how like people transport deities. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. I know exactly what you mean. The idol is in the carriage, right? I was going to say that we have literally never seen Saida use the fine sculpting tools on screen. But I think a great moment for them to use it now would be to decorate this carriage. Right?
Yeah.
And I think like maybe we see that there is along one side of the carriage the story of Moss finding the tree, and then the way that like we found out where it was, and Moss's relationship with Banu, and all of this, and then at the end the transport itself, and then the other side is left blank because obviously that's going to be carved in once Moss gets to the other end. And whatever happens then will happen then, right?
Yeah.
I think that's like my gift to both to Moss, but also to the tree itself, because for Saida it is like you say, it's an object of like real religious devotion, and she really like she can respect Moss's decision quite a lot, right? So I think like there is a part of her that is, as this is happening, I think Saida is somewhat thinking, oh, I should have done that. Why didn't I do that? Like, I mean, that is clearly a better use of time and energy than whatever it is the fuck I'm doing. You know, like, this is actually building something. Me, I've just gone full off the reservation.
Yeah. And so, I think a logical scene is as this procession winds its way towards one of Udvasha's gates for, a sanctioned emigration. And this probably takes a lot of work to do. It's not actually an easy thing to leave Udvasha or to be able to travel through the desert. So, like, time passes here. We're doing it all in this one session. I just want to highlight that, it takes some time for this to happen, for people to have some conversations. We can easily, like, flash back to one or whatnot, or take one now if we want. But I think the next scene I want to frame that is like a focal point is this, like, the procession towards the gate and the goodbye, like, as the caravan actually leaves. And I think Moss, you and Banu have positions of both honor and importance here. Like, you people have the rune staff, you have the knowledge of the desert. Like, you're the leaders of this expedition functionally, but you're also leading like a whole people. So this is effectively, like a pilgrimage. You have a whole, small village of Rocca with you. So it's quite a responsibility, right?
Yeah. I think Moss is like the moment where she talks to the others, to the family, is when she like has managed, in the kind of people milling about preparing to go through. I suppose there is a Deathlands Gate here that they're preparing to go through. She's kind of managed to detach herself for a moment from like a million questions.
Disappearing in a crowd. What?
Yes.
How surprising. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Exactly that.
Yep.
Well, I think she finds... would everyone be together? I'm asking
But this, I
you
think
guys.
so, and I think we would be with
Yeah.
our cohorts as well, right? Like, I think.
Yeah. Seeing you off.
This is the
it
kind
makes
of thing.
sense to be.
This is the kind of thing that the entire school would be together for.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, even besides Moss leaving, which is a big thing in itself, this is also like one of the few times the Kethrisi religion has like been visible in the city. So I think pretty much everyone of Kethrisi descent is here.
That makes sense.
Should we paint the scene for this situation?
I was just about to say, I was just about to say that it makes sense to paint the scene because this is a meaningful and interesting thing, and it says a lot about the Kethrisi community. And I have a question for Bidrohi right away, actually, which is, what's Alkader's role in this? Like, this is not something where he's a secular leader of the people, right? He's not like a religious leader. But what has he done to commemorate this event?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna let you decide this because, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think, in fact, I'm going to tell you what he does. And Emma, you can react to this however you want.
Uh-huh.
But he's going to come up to you with someone who represents the Rokha community, like the most senior person he could find.
Mm-hmm.
Who would that be, Prince?
So, okay, I guess I'll better make up a character on the fly because it's obviously not the tree or the walker. So the most senior person you can find probably is, I think it's a very old man. It's in fact a man who's so old and so respected he's allowed to ride along on the carriage or he wouldn't be able to make it. And it's one of those trips where people are like fully expect him to not survive the trip, but he still really wants to go on the trip.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like this ancient guy with a long beard who's probably like almost 100.
Mm-hmm. I think Alkadir would probably come forward, and I want to roleplay him, but what he's going to do is kind of like, shake you by the hand and just say like, me and Mr. whatever Unrokka have been in discussions, blah blah blah, and since now you are taking on this important role in their community, we have, with my consent as the local leader of the Khatam people, and his consent as the leader of the Rokha people, we have decided that it is time for you to have a new name. And they hand you a certificate which says that your new surname is Unrokka.
I think Moss kind of freezes at that.
Mm-hmm.
This is meant to be nice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
I am leaving my family behind in many ways. And I really appreciate this gesture of welcome that you're giving me. But perhaps this is a step too far.
Alkader is about to speak up, I think, is about to insist, and then the old man kind of silences him with a wave, and he says in a tired, wheezing voice, he says, "It is not a requirement. A name is an offering. It is certainly fine to turn it down. Do not worry about it."
Thank you, sir.
And then he
Thank you,
collapses
teacher.
into thought.
Mm-hmm.
And Alkader looks offended that this whole plan has gone awry.
Yeah, because this is the only thing that he could contribute to show that he's important.
Yeah.
Sorry, Alkader.
Well, it's like this esteemed member of the community says, a name is an offering. He says, repeating it
Yeah.
without having any idea what it means, which is
That wasn't
what
me
Alcaner do.
in character, but I suppose she might as well like give him a kind of
Yeah.
apologetic gesture.
Yeah. And so, continuing to paint the scene, apart from this mini scene, I think it's fitting to ask Saida, since you decorated the carriage, what does it look like? What are the decorations for transporting a tree?
Yeah, I think that I was thinking about this, and I think that transporting a tree historically in Catharis is kind of like a marriage. It's when someone like community joins them. Like it's not like necessarily a sad thing, right? Like it's like, oh, our family is moving somewhere else and we are going to the new place. That's why like they would also change their name, right? So I think the carriage is kind of done up to look like the wedding carriage of a bride.
Mm-hmm.
So in North India, the traditional color is red. In South India, the traditional color is white. So let's say it's red and white.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the sculptures along the side, which would normally be in wood, probably dead wood collected from the tree, but in this case, that's not possible. So in this case, and like again, that's also because it's we're immigrants and we can't really afford that much, and we're trying our best. So this will probably just be from some wood that Saida found, like the closest that they could get, maybe, right? And I think that traditionally, probably it would have been like carried on the shoulders of the people who were moving, but this one is on wheels because that's going to travel really quite far, even much further than like just from one part of Catharis to another, right? So this one's probably on wheels, I think.
Yeah, excellent. So this like bridal carriage style thing. We have established that Moss and Banu are the desert walkers, the people who know the safe-ish paths through the desert, and such a thing is possible around Uduasha. Like it has more interactions with the Deathlands on foot than Akoros does, just because like people can navigate the Deathlands here with traditional ways. But obviously there are other means of safety. So I think for paint the scene, Mushfik, what do these poor immigrants like? How do they keep themselves safe against the desert? The people that aren't Moss and Banu, is it with like talismans or weapons or a combination or what?
Interesting. Okay. I mean, I guess I mean, what Mushfik's been doing to keep the coast at bay has been his ancestral fruits, but this tree is sick, and I guess it can't do that, right? Like,
I guess part of it is probably the tree itself. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But
I think normally like the tree itself would be providing some kind of protection, but I guess since this one is sick, it can't do that. People have written down prayers, like I think they are talismans, but it's kind of haphazard. Like there's no real like consistent theme. Like it's just people have whatever. Like these are refugees. They've like whatever they managed to bring back from home. They've as like a memento. Like they've add some prayers onto that, something like that.
Yeah, makes sense. So people carry makeshift talismans.
Yeah.
And okay. Turning to I think Clem next for a paint the scene detail. And I think since Clem is not part of this community, I think the interesting question here is what seems strange about this journey to an outsider? Like, what is here that is almost inexplicable to you in either the preparations or the decorations or just like how people have done this up?
I mean, we've likened it to a marriage, so I think you'd expect these people to be talking amongst each other, to be celebrating, but I think it's deathly quiet. There's nothing. The only sound is the wheels of the carriage turning on the cobbles.
Yeah, makes sense. People walk in like a quiet procession as they leave. And I guess this is not expected for the whole trip, but it is, I guess, expected by tradition when you leave, there are no words. So, and considering Udvash is big, normally this is probably just like as you pass through the village gate, and it doesn't take that long. But Udvash is huge, so it does take very long in this case. Yeah, makes sense. And lastly, for the last paint the scene question, I think, which is for Moss. And that is just like, as we look out through this gate, which opens very seldom but does let caravans in and out. It's probably in the foreign quarter. It's where the desert is accessed from. What does the gate and the desert look like? Like, what lies ahead as we look ahead of this caravan towards the big doors and the road?
We think. I think what lies ahead is an expanse of rock in shadow that these rocks are so dark that these rocks are probably like red or sandstone in color, but they just look this kind of light gray against a very, very dark sky. And they're craggy. It's terribly inhospitable terrain that you couldn't take a carriage across, except lots of bridges have been kind of strung over cliffs, and they're mostly bridges made of like metal wire with planks across them.
That's very cool. All right, so having established some of the things that are going on in the scenery, let us cut back to Moss breaking off to speak with their family. So you slip up next to probably Bidruhi and Saida.
Yes. Yes, and I think Moss has. She comes up to them and she's carrying along with all her her giant backpack and lots of I think she's wearing much heavier clothes than she normally is, kind of protective cloak. She's also carrying over her shoulder a stick, and on each end of the stick hangs something that looks like it could be like a really large heavy bell, like two basketball sizes, the size of two basketballs stacked on top of each other, but each item is covered in a piece of cloth. And she slips up next to them. I suppose this is it.
I suppose it is. I never asked you, why moss on the rung that breaks your ankle?
Why don't you ask my mother?
I feel like actually I was gonna introduce this, which is that I feel like this kind of name is one that you give yourself. Because I'm not sure that any parent names their child moss on the ladder that breaks her ankle, on the rung of the ladder that breaks her ankle, but also this kind of poetry does seem more apt as something that you give yourself, right?
Yeah.
Same with Moonlit.
She sets the stick with the two heavy things down on the ground, and there's kind of an animal noise from inside them, and she says, "Just when I left, when I left home with, my first home with Mom, there were some very bad days where everything went wrong. And I said to myself at the end of one of those days that there was one solace that I could take, and that was that it could not get worse. And that everything, that I was now at my lowest. And the next day, I woke up feeling reinforced by that. And then I tried to climb a very slippery ladder. But that was also the first time that someone from another village took care of me, nursed me back over time. I don't know if it's a bitter memory or a sweet one, but it felt like a defining one of sorts.
Mm-hmm. I think Bidrohu is kind of like crouched down on his haunches, apparently not really paying attention, and kind of like playing around with whatever animal noise was in there. He's kind of investigating. He suddenly says, I remember this. You were gone for a while.
Yeah.
So what is this animal noise, by the way? I'm investigating.
Yes, it is.
It's a bird noise, and like seeing that you're messing with it, Moss will like just say, "Yes, I might as well show you this." One of them I'm taking, and she takes off the cloth from the one that you're like kind of looking at, and it's a very large bird cage, and there is a rather large vulture in there. And she says, they fly very high, this kind. And,
that is sick as shit.
I know, it's a wonderful creature, isn't it?
That too.
And the feathers on their belly are black so that you can't see them from below. And I've been told that this one is trained like a messenger bird. Trained to fly to Kethris. I don't know how well it'll work. I've never used these birds, but
I think he gently takes the bird on his arm, and he listens, and then he looks at the black underbelly, and then he just goes, "Coochie coochie coo," and then he tries tickling the bird.
I think the bird is quite unresponsive to tickling.
Stone cold badass. Thank you, sister. This will. I mean, it looks very smart. I'm sure it will find its way to Rocca very easily.
Yeah, and the other one I hope will find its way here.
Okay. Also, I also have something for you. Of course I do.
She smiles.
I know you don't like to use these things, but I mean, Mushrik Bhai has told us all sorts of stories. I mean, also Saidanti have told us all sorts of stories about all the shit that's happening in Kethris, and you know what this is, and then I kind of like give you a swaddled package, and I think it's like wrapped in rags and so on. And I just hand it to you. And it's wrapped in rags and it's bound with twine. It's like the thing about like swords is that it's really like a skill thing. The thing about these things is that you just point them at them and then you just press the button and then someone dies.
I
stole it from Hamish, Jekyll's friend.
Oh, good. Well, hope you don't get in trouble about that. But if
That's
you do,
all right.
I'm sure you'll get out of it again.
I mean, what's he going to do? He doesn't have a gun anymore.
Exactly.
And these are like revolvers.
Yeah, she kind of like weighs it in her hand.
Mhm.
Yeah. Having them as a backup rather than as an art form has always been more my style, I suppose.
I think Saida wanted to say something more, so I think Bidra is just kind of
Oh
standing
yeah.
out.
Mhm.
I think Saida watches this and says, first I think she will say, another bad habit that you have left Bidrohi with in complete contravention of your duties as an elder sibling is interrupting his elders. For this also I will hold you responsible.
He chuckles a little bit.
And I
But
think
eventually,
no, go on.
but eventually, Auntie, you always get your words in.
Yes. Long after the moment has passed. Well, and I think she will put her hand on your face and she will say, I thought you might have some depressing story like that about your name. It's the kind of thing that I might have done if the mood had struck me, which it never really did. If you don't mind, Moss, I will think of you as the moss on the side of the wall of my childhood home.
It's the second time somebody's been trying to give me a new name today. But this one I
Well.
like much more than the other one. Yes.
He can
go
say
for
all
it.
he likes that a name is an offer. But between you and me, this name is a gift.
Thank you. I think that's a wonderful gift. Both of these are. She like looks at the package, bundle.
Yeah, and then she will kiss you on the forehead, brush away a tear from her eyes, and
Oh,
say, "You better say goodbye to your mother."
yes.
And I will be over here, not having any emotions at all.
Before you
That's
go.
the way I know you.
Yeah. I think this is where Bidre cuts in again and just fiercely just grabs Moss and just gives her a very strong, tight hug.
Oh,
And he's crying, and he says, "Maybe I didn't tell you afterwards that you didn't understand what I said that night. Of course I know you. But it wasn't enough."
Moss is also crying. No, it wasn't. So there will have to be more.
Can we send each other hugs with Vulture? I will teach Vulture to hug people.
It will eat you.
First project, Vulture. You and I'm going to teach you love.
The only vulture that knows how to hug is Vickers, and she's already in love.
Yeah. Very good. I think Moonlit also, of course, will hug Moss as she leaves. And she says, "It's bad luck to cry seeing of your children. And I don't want you to have bad luck on your way." And she fights back tears, pulls you into a hug, And she will tell you something, and I don't know what it is, but it seems like Moonlit is the kind of person who will do this, who will, as she hugs you, she will whisper some prayer or some poem or some verse in your ear, and we, the listeners, will not hear it, but it is a secret shared between mother and daughter, and this is what she sends on your way instead of tears, because it will bring you better luck.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I think it should be the poem that Tree translated briefly.
Yeah.
Beloved,
That.
having loved me, do not from me part ways. Live in my city with me spend your days.
Yep.
Was ironic from her.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. But
Oh.
she will send you words, not tears, on your way, for they will serve you better. And she will hug you, and then I think we hear the gate like pull apart, and the wheels of the wagon start to creak. And I think it is laid out such that Banu walks in front of the caravan, and Moss is meant to walk behind it, so that you can watch out in both directions. And so the wagon begins to creak away, but you will not be the first through the gate. And yeah, however, it's time to go.
Moss detaches herself from Moonlit, and like her face is very wet, and she like mumbles something about, I suppose I'll have to do it for the both of us. Thank you. And then she goes to hug Uzra. Has a little moment.
Yeah.
Says something about a tree, I think.
Yeah.
Goes up to. I assume that Mushfik and Clem are also here.
Yes, and we should also say tearful goodbyes.
Yes.
Yes.
I think Clem's going to give you a embroidered tunic, and it's embroidered with, they've been spending their time learning the names of your ancestors.
Oh, that's
for
wonderful.
you. And she's also been spending her time forging out of Severosi steel a sickle. Defend yourself well. Don't forget where you came from.
I won't. I'm going back there. And I'll have this and all the gifts you've all given me to keep me safe. It was nice knowing you both. I am, however brief it was, I am glad to have had you both in my life.
It's a shame we didn't have the time to know each other better, but I will always remember the time you injected a man with a ghost. I can't forget, even if I tried. It was terrifying.
Perhaps one day you may aspire, she says with like a teasing smile.
Yeah.
Well, and then looks at like how the kind of like caravan of people who are like halfway through the gate. I should find my place.
I hope you find your place. Take care, Moss.
She nods and turns and looks at everyone one more time before she disappears in the back of the crowd.
Yeah. And Moss vanishes into the crowd, and well before the gate close, you already cannot see her.
Very good.
Yeah. And I think last thing we hear is the sound of the gate as the Deathlands open up outside, and the vast desert spreads, and the gates of Uduasha close. And I think this is where we will wrap our session.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fond farewell to Moss, and for listeners who are part of our Patreon, you also get to hear our fond farewells to Emma.
Round the beggar from Luosa, written by Dan Anderson, translated to English by Ola Vikander. Round the beggar from Luosa, people gathered in a ring. By the campfire they sat and heard his song. And of wayfarers and mendicants and every wondrous thing, and of his longing, he sang to them all night long. There is something beyond mountains, beyond flowers, beyond singing. There is something there behind the star, behind my burning heart. Hearken, something goes there whispering, goes there calling me and praying, come to us, for of this earthly kingdom you are not a part. I have listened to the tranquil waves that roll against the beach. To dream of wild seas rest has been my lot. And in spirit I have hastened towards the formless lands where the dearest thing we knew shall be forgot. To a wild, eternal longing we were born by pallid mothers. From the labor pains of troubles rose our first and anguished cry. We were thrown on plains and mountains then, to play with all our brothers. And we played there, elk and lion, beggar, god, and butterfly. I sat silent by her side, she whose heart was like to mine. With hands so soft she tended to our nest. But I heard my heart then calling, what thou ownest is not thine. And the spirit came and bore me off to rest. What I love is far away beyond, concealed in distant darkness, and high and wonderful is my true way. And amid this clamor I am called to pray before the heavens. What no one has I want to own. Take all the earth away. Follow, brother, beyond mountains to the cool and peaceful rivers, where in beds of mountain garlands all sea slowly goes to sleep. Somewhere there beyond the heavens is my home. I have my mother, in the golden sprinkled mists dressed in rosy mantle deep. May the black and salty waters cool the cheeks that burn with fever. Let's be miles away from life before the morning breaks above. Not of this world was I, brother. Hardships without end I suffered, for the sake of worries, faithlessness, and of my burning love. By a shore all dressed in seashells stands a gate of roses heavy. Therein sleep the mouldered shipwrecks, and the tired men find rest. Songs unheard and high there sing like violins and distant echoes. Under arches where eternal children live, forever blessed. On the next episode of Desperate Attune.
Okay, so she has given her hand signal. I've given you enough advance warning. Clem, you're being hit over the head with a barrel. You can resist that if you want. No one beat anything about your hand signal.
Mobilizing.
Very good.
So
This one we
just happens unless you resist it.